You are listening to the SDSU Football Podcast, presented by the East Village Times, with your hosts Andre Hagverdian and Paul Garrison. Welcome, listeners, to episode 62 of the SDSU Football Podcast. I'm your host, Andre Hagverdian, and will be joined shortly by my co-host, Paul Garrison. Today's episode is an interview with Aztec for Life, David Wells, who was a tight end at San Diego State from 2013 through 2017. He totaled 38 catches for 449 yards and 6 touchdowns, while helping San Diego State win back-to-back Mountain West Conference championships in 2015 and 2016. Since then, David went undrafted in the 2018 NFL Draft, but has bounced around the league with various teams across the last 4 to 5 years, played on the practice squad for several teams, and is currently on the practice squad for the Tampa Bay Buccaneers this past season and has a futures contract with them to be on the roster for training camp in 2023. It was a great chance to catch up with David, relive the San Diego State glory days, and talk about a lot of the struggles and the ups and downs of being a NFL player, making sure staying resilient, staying hungry, staying dedicated to the game, playing for that next opportunity, whether it's on the current team you're on the practice squad, or if it's the next team that's looking to pick you up. So it was a great conversation. Really appreciate David taking the time during his off-season training to chat with us, and I am sure you guys will enjoy it. Let's get to it. We want to welcome Aztec for Life, David Wells, to the podcast. How are you doing tonight, man?
Doing good, guys. Thanks for having me.
Absolutely. How's your off season going?
It's good. Had a couple trips already, just with some old friends and everything like that. Started back training again and everything, and should be a good off season for the next few months.
Where are you right now during the off season?
I'm up in Sacramento area. Me and my wife live up here, yeah.
So we definitely want to get into your NFL career, your current NFL career, but just to kind of go back to, the San Diego State career. You were born in Fresno, you went to high school in Fresno, you had an offer from Fresno State, but you went to San Diego State. How did that kind of decision come about?
Well, I was a huge Pat Hill fan growing up, and I'm sure if he was still there, it probably would have been a little different. But I went down to San Diego State. I remember I went to a few camps that summer after my junior season. And yeah, I went to the camp, and then that was when Coach Ludwig was the offensive coordinator here. And so then met up with Ludwig and everything, and got an offer right after that camp. And so that was pretty cool. That was one of the first offers as well. And then went through that whole summer, did a full contact camp at Fresno State, and then they offered me after that one. But yeah, then I went back down to San Diego State for an unofficial visit towards the end of the summer, and then just fell in love with it. And I was like, love Fresno and everything. Had nice 18 years there, but you really couldn't beat San Diego at that point. So I love the offense that we were running. I loved what it was about. It was a lot like what I did in high school and what my high school coaches were preaching on. So it all just ended up working out great.
Before you moved to tight end and became an all-league tight end as a senior in high school, you played quarterback.
I did, yeah.
What kind of quarterback were you, and why the move to tight end?
I was inaccurate. That's what it was. Yeah, no, it was fine. I mean, I had a good quarterback that I was competing with in high school, Christian Rossi. So shout out to my guy. Without him, I definitely wouldn't have had any offers. So that's really good. So we had a good connection. About, it was 3 or 4 games into the season. We were going back and forth with a little bit of playing time, and then he ended up winning out the position. And so it was one of those things. Before the season, my offensive coordinator in high school, Vince Bradstater, he was like, "Hey man, you could be a hell of a tight end. You could be good." And I was like, "Yeah, but I want to be a quarterback. That's what I've always played." But then, sure enough, got beat out, and just because he was better, straight up about it. And then moved to like wide receiver kind of H-back position, and it just took off from there. And I was like, all right, yeah, this makes a lot of sense for what I want to do. And then, worked really hard over those next 2 years to become a good tight end and gain a lot of weight because, I was maybe 6'4", 6'5", like 210 pounds, and then
Mm.
by the time I got to San Diego State, I was like 240. So I had to put on a lot of weight
Wow.
just because I knew it, wanted to compete and stuff. But, it was a lot of fun. I'm really happy I switched to tight end. It's kind of like a good combination of pass game and run game as well. So it's like, people don't realize tight ends have to know almost just as much as the quarterbacks just because we're involved with a lot of the run game and with the pass game as well. So, you really have to be able to see the whole picture.
So your development though, man, wasn't done. You come to San Diego State, you redshirt 14, you play mostly on special teams. You got on the field in 15, but 4 catches, 22 yards. 2016 though, you have a breakout year, 25 catches, run heavy offense, 294, all Mountain West second team. What do you think finally clicked for you in being able to kind of hit your stride at that point?
Well, I just don't think those first 2 years I was ready. There's a lot of me thinking I'm decent in the run game, but then when I gained a bunch of weight, I felt like I wasn't as comfortable moving as at that big yet. And then through the strength and conditioning programs and just through practice and, reps and reps and reps, I was finally able to like work myself into being able to do, move better, be able to block better, just get like a nasty kind of attitude to be in that kind of offense that we ran. So, it took a little while. And once it clicked, though, and our run game took off with Daniel Brunskill and I out there, it really went after that. And then he switched to right tackle, and I was able to take over. And, that was a big blessing at that time. And, kind of asked for a better career at San Diego State. It was a lot of fun.
Yeah, because you guys won. I mean, at the
Hmm.
end of it, I mean, the second part of the back-to-back championships, and everyone's thinking it's gonna just be like that forever. But they're still looking to win 22. So now looking back on it, it was a pretty special time. Those glory days. I mean, what was it like just being able to see, Pumphrey breaking records, Penny becoming what he was becoming, and just what all of that meant to the city and your time there.
Yeah, well, it was pretty cool because when I got there, I think our first year we were 7-5, and then the next year, or 8-4, my first year, I believe that was when we won the Potato Bowl, and then second year we were 7-5 and we lost in that Poinsettia Bowl right there. I think that's when the class of Nico Siragusa, Alex Barrett, Quade Miller, all those guys, that's when they started to take over, and I think our two classes were a big catalyst for pushing San Diego State to like almost the next level a little bit, just because we went through that off season, was absolute hell, which what we had to go through just because we needed to be tougher. We needed to figure out what our identity was, just because I felt like on offense we were really lost for a little bit there. Just going against everybody, we had DJ Pumphrey, Calvin Munson, Trey Lomax, Rashad Penny, Kiava Tizino, all of these guys, Dakota Turner, you can just rattle off name after name of guys who just made big plays and put up big numbers for us all throughout those years. And I think it was really those two classes that really, bought into what San Diego State football was really about. I think that's when we really just decided like to beat everybody, we just got to be flat out tougher than everybody. We may not have we may not have the biggest D lineman, the biggest O line, but we did have a pretty big O line. And our running backs and tight ends were definitely our strong suit, and we have to take that all the way if we have to win these games. So that was going to 22 personnel, 21 personnel majority of the games, and just running the ball. I mean, you do what you got to do to get the win. But I mean, when we were able to put up 500 yards rushing in multiple games, 400-yard, 300-yard rushing games, it's pretty unheard of, especially in an offense, not really like a triple option kind of attack.
Your senior year, your production dipped a little bit, but you still got second team all conference again. You had 2 touchdowns, but one of those touchdowns could be one of the most memorable touchdowns in SDSU football history, at least in recent time. Stanford.
Anytime. Don't sell them short. Anytime. Anytime. That was
Anytime.
nuts. That was nuts.
Stanford The lights went out. I think it was like a 30-minute delay. We weren't sure
Yeah.
if the game was going to continue. Like we were in the crowd wondering, okay, what's going to happen? Lights come back on. You catch an 8-yard pass. You had to earn those last few yards before you got in the end zone because I think you hit a defender at maybe the 3-yard line, spun,
Yeah.
fell backwards into the end zone. How do you look back on that play and the significance of it now that you're a few years removed from it?
It's so crazy, because every now and then you'll think about it and, just like how big of a play it was, finally being able to at the beginning of my career, I didn't really score until my junior year. When getting into the end zone was one of the best things ever, because it's just like, all right, I did it. I still remember that first drive against San Jose State when I had 6 catches in a row or something like that, finished off with my first career touchdown. But then, going into my senior year, I had a Jones fracture, so I broke my foot in summer conditioning, and so that was pretty upsetting. And that was June, right before the season started, and we didn't really talk about it much. It didn't really get out in the media or anything like that. It was really one of those things like, all right, you're getting surgery, and you're going to have to make it back for season. And so, it was June, July, and August. All those months of where you're usually hitting stride and you're getting in shape physically, and you're making all that time, with the team and everything like that, going through all the hard days. Instead, I was in the training room, so that was really tough going into that senior year. But, my role definitely reduced that year, I think, because of that, just because, I wasn't physically ready to run, that great at the beginning of the season, but I was more fighting just because I didn't want to miss any games. I wanted to play. And so, I was cleared for that first game. I think we played UC Davis, but, I didn't play at all that game. And then that second week, I really tried to push myself in practice to show Coach Horton and all the coaches that I can actually make it, and that I'm ready to play. And so the first game back against Arizona State, and then it was primarily just a blocking role. And I was like, okay, this is what I'm going to have to do. We had some studs out there like Kahale Waring, who was extremely athletic, and him being able to get all that time during the summer and build relationships, start getting that chemistry. It really helped expand our offense a little bit more and made it more of a threat, I believe. And, it is what it is. But I mean, I played that Y position and I, just came back and just started like, all right, I'm just going to have to maul people. And that's really about it. But, it changed throughout the year, once I started feeling healthy again. And then that Stanford game, that whole last drive, we're just running with Rashad Penny up and down the field. If you watch that last drive of the game, Rashad had like 2 or 3, I believe, 10 or 12-yard runs that were huge to keep the drive going, to get us all the way down there. Then the lights shut off. But I definitely think that was like a big factor of what got us into that play call. Because I remember that play call was in, and I was like, okay, this could be, a good play call for the goal line, everything like that, or a short yardage situation. That's usually where in like my junior or senior year that I got a lot of touchdowns at, was mostly on like those short yardage situations where we can bluff our run game and I can sneak down the middle or something like that. But yeah, we got out of the huddle and I saw, it was a pretty good setup numbers wise. Like, okay, we've ran the ball to me a lot, but then going away, we're trying to work that in more, that drive. And then once I was able to get the release off the line and I got that linebacker on the line of scrimmage to bite inside, I was like, okay, I have a lot of room, but I knew one of the safeties back there was either going to be Justin Reed or the other guy, but the other guy I knew didn't wrap up as much. So then once I felt myself going to head up with him, I was like, okay, I just got to turn and try to fall backwards into the end zone. Sure enough, it worked out. So that was pretty cool, but it was one of those things when you get up off the ground, you don't hear anything. You just see everyone going crazy, adrenaline's taking over. You just can't feel a thing. But, that was probably one of the best feelings of my career. That was awesome.
As a player, do you, in the moments, maybe not, but maybe after the game, do you realize kind of the significance of that play and that win? Because, I was a season ticket holder, but I hadn't been a season ticket holder for that long. But, some of the people that I have season tickets with are older people in their 60s and 70s, and they have tears in their eyes when that game ends, and running on the field, things like that. Do you have a sense of like how important it was in that moment to like the Aztec Nation?
Honestly, no. I mean, I was so excited just for us to get that win because I feel like it really showed what we were about as a team, and, you can't forget, even after I scored, our
Mhm.
defense has to come back out onto the field, and you see Cam Kelly go make a big play as well. So we had dudes on both sides of the ball that were just selling out, and I think that really just spoke to what the mentality of the team was then. But the biggest thing, it's so hard to think about the broader area, of people and fans that really, enjoyed the game. But now it's like looking back on it, it was a really big moment,
Mhm.
and it's really cool to be a part of it. None of those things run through your mind during the game. You're just so juiced up about, scoring, and it's a huge game against a big team, that you'll definitely have bragging rights on a few guys that you know in the league and stuff like that. You just say, hey, you know what, we won. But
It is.
that's the fun part about it. But it's just something I'll cherish forever for sure. I mean, in Qualcomm, or was it SDCCU Stadium then? But it was so cool. It's so hard to explain it, just because it's just one of those things that it happens so quickly, but it's such a big moment, and it's so hard to explain what those feelings are. But just looking back on it, it's so much fun. It was such a great time.
It's funny, to Andre's point, the older people around me at the time could not believe that something this good could happen to San Diego State. And so when they stripped the ball out of your hands after you had crossed the goal line clearly, they were all convinced there's no way it's going to be a touchdown. The refs are going to screw us. And they would not believe until finally the review came or whatever they did. And then everyone is able to fully celebrate. So that, I think that moment was like that moment for the fan base of belief that, like you said, San Diego State had arrived.
Oh yeah, I still remember getting to the sideline, and the adrenaline starting to wear off a little bit because it's about 30 or 40 seconds into what the review is. And our trainer Jake comes up next to me, give me some water. He's like, "Did you get in?" Like, just like trying to keep it under his breath, make sure he's not like saying like, "Hey, but did you get in? Are you sure? You positive?" I'm like, "Yeah, like I got it. I know I did." But that it's just so funny. You just think about all those small things around it. It's just, and you see the pictures, of, how juiced everybody was after, and it's, getting up off the ground and seeing all the fans, throwing their hands up in the air. It's something so special that, it was such an honor to be a part of.
So, you graduate, and next up is the NFL draft process, going about having to hire an agent, going through that. What was your thought process at that point? Like, was there conversations about entering the process or doing something else? What were your thoughts on that?
Yeah, I mean, people reach out to you, after your junior year and stuff like that, but it was really hard to gauge what was going to happen because of how much my role kind of decreased my senior year just because of the injuries and everything like that. And it was a tough process trying to get myself back, completely into, all right, like I need to get back to being an athlete again and not just a blocker, because if I'm going to the NFL, this is what you have to be able to do both things well. So I definitely had to expand on my game a lot. And I went to the Exos out in San Diego. I got a great agent in Kenny Zuckerman, still my agent to this day. Great friend of mine now. It's definitely a tough process that you have to be mentally tough for, and I think San Diego State prepared us very well for that. Just because I got invited to the combine, but I didn't get any meetings. But you go through all the whole process and all the medical evaluations and all the training. Okay, this one injury here, they're pretty much trying to define you with that one injury, even though your whole entire career, you blocked your ass off so much for everybody. It's such a hard process because there's so many great players. You have to be able to compete at the highest level. And so going through that process, I had a few workouts and everything, went to the combine, felt like I did pretty well, showing my improved athleticism, I think. And then, yeah, I think the injuries was a big part of it. Went to Dallas, undrafted, and then went through that whole process there through that off season, but didn't really get any playing time throughout the preseason and stuff like that. It was really hard to get on the field while there's four tight ends in front of me and stuff like that. So I think I had maybe 4 or 5 reps my rookie preseason, and I was pretty much sure, like, okay, maybe it's done. I don't really know. I don't have any film, and film is your resume in this business. So
Yeah.
definitely made it tough. But then I had a few workouts. I had a workout with Arizona, and then the week after that, I believe like week 3 of the season, got picked up by Kansas City, and I was on their practice squad for a whole entire year. And that was a great learning process on how to be a professional. Being a rookie all by yourself out there, you definitely have to learn how to be an adult quick. It's a lot different from college where not everything is as structured. It's pretty much it is your job now. It took me time to figure out, hey, you need to make sure this playbook inside and out. You need to know both tight end positions. You need to know special teams, and I think that's a huge thing that a lot of players in college need to get more prepared with, is playing on special teams more, because if you're a stud and you're playing on special teams in college, NFL teams are going to see that, and it's just going to make your price go up. And I really hope that a lot of players now start to go into that special teams kind of role and know that, hey, fourth down is crucial as well. That year was really great, learning from Travis Kelce, Pat Mahomes, all those guys. And then went into that off season, got a ton of reps, and then unfortunately got hurt in practice and broke my ankle the day before. It was our last padded practice day before our first preseason game. And so broke my ankle, tore it up, and I was out for the whole entire season. And so going those first few years, back-to-back injuries pretty much, except the year in between, that was pretty tough. It was pretty tough mentally, just because it's like, okay, do the teams think you're made of glass now? Do you have the injury bug? Is your career actually going to continue after this? And so that was really hard to push myself through that whole entire situation. But I came back to San Diego for that time, and I was out there with my girlfriend at the time, who's now my wife. Bless her heart, she drove me from Kansas City all the way to Green Bay to get my surgery and back to Kansas City, packed up our whole entire place, and then moved us all the way back out to San Diego. So, she was a rock star through that whole entire experience. And, I would have definitely not been able to do any of this without her. So, but yeah, it's been pretty crazy. And then, of course, COVID hits. That's a whole nother situation. When you feel like, at that point, I felt like I was in the best shape I've been in a long, long time. Athletically, I felt great. I felt strong. I was ready to go. And then COVID happens, and you're just like, okay, is this opportunity ever going to come again? And, so I had a few times where I sat down with Coach Horton and, just talked to him and just, trying to catch up and see where, the football thing is, and, what possibilities life could be after football and everything like that. Just talking, try to get some guidance and stuff like that. But, I was fortunate enough to get a lot of opportunities in 2021 last year and work my way back into the league pretty much and get my foot in the door. And, that was tough. I was on 4 different teams last year alone, having to learn 4 different offenses in short amount of times, trying to show your worth to these guys who've been on the team almost all year and everything like that. You're showing up in week 7, week 6, just trying not to screw anything up, learn the offense quick and get on the field. It's a tough job. People don't realize that. They think once you get in the NFL, it's all bread and butter. But, you go out there, you're really fighting for what you want out of this league. And so I was very happy I was able to get back into the league, playing some games last year as well. And, now I'm in Tampa. So it was a lot of fun.
It's incredible. Okay, so here's the thing. So after everyone storms the field on the game that we were discussing, where you caught the touchdown, there was a line of kids who were reenacting your play. I would wager that every one of those kids has NFL aspirations, and none of them look like the story that you just said. Right? So,
Yeah.
so, I mean, what did you learn about yourself, your love of football, that you had to discover by going through so much of what you just described?
Well, I've always thought that I knew the mental side of the game pretty well. And I think that was one of my strong suits, especially learning in college. I felt by my senior year that I really had a good football IQ of learning defensive fronts, coverages, how run game works, footwork and everything like that, and technique. So I felt like I had a good basis on that. But once you get into the NFL and, in Kansas City, especially for tight ends and being in the same offense as Travis Kelce, you have to know every single position. And so you have to know what the far right receiver all the way to the far left receiver, even the running back has, because in any formation, you could be that guy. You could be any guy on the field. And so you have to really expand your game that way physically. And then just having to learn just how coverages and where they're trying to attack people, especially in defenses, that was something I really wanted to, prove to myself that I could do just because, if I know where the open spots are going to be, even if I'm not as athletically gifted as these guys, I'll be able to find that spot and get open. I think that was a big thing for me this past year. I worked a lot on my route running and just getting open, finding the ball and being really aggressive towards the ball in the air. And I think it worked out. But, it's such a mentally hard game that you are expected to be perfect every time. People think that, you can just go out there and play ball. That's not it. If you go out there and just play ball and mess something up multiple times in a row, you're gone. And so when you have your shot, you got to make sure you know what you're doing. And that's probably the biggest part of the game where people, I don't think, understand how hard it is mentally just to make sure you know what your job is and make sure you don't disappoint 10 other guys out there on the field with you.
You mentioned that year that you were on the IR with Kansas City, but y'all won the Super Bowl.
Yeah, we did win the Super Bowl. That was pretty cool. But I mean, I was out in San Diego the whole time. I wasn't even with the team during most of the season. But it was a cool experience, especially during that Super Bowl. I'll always forever remember that weekend. I proposed to my wife, just because it was our anniversary leading into that weekend. Proposed on that anniversary right before we left, and then we got to go and party at the Super Bowl for a whole weekend. So, and then we win. It was a great feeling, a lot of good times. So, I mean, that was definitely a reward for all the hard work I think I put in through treatment and hours of, getting worked on my ankle, trying to fight back, learning how to walk again, learning how to run, cut, all that sort of thing. It was a mentally exhausting year, but I definitely found out a lot about myself that year, just trying to figure out, okay, if you're going to do this, you have to put everything you possibly have into it. If not, it's not going to work. So, I mean, I definitely found out a lot about myself that year, which was great.
So did your wife say yes right away, or was this like a scheme that you were going to ask her right before you were going to take her to go party at the Super Bowl? Because that's a pretty good setup. Like, how could you say no after that?
It just worked out great, honestly. I mean, our anniversary at that time, now we have a new anniversary, but
Sure.
our anniversary at that time was January 31st or February 1st. And so I was like, okay, I need to make sure that I have something ready for this because, I wanted to marry her for a long time.
Awesome.
And she's amazing. It just ended up working out so perfectly time wise. I was like, this has got to be it. Gotta do it here. Yeah, it was great. It was great.
Awesome.
Was she somebody you met at San Diego State, or was it after that?
Yeah, she was on the dance team there.
Okay.
So she was on the dance team. So I just met her through some mutual friends and everything like that. And one of the best choices I've had in my life, that's for sure.
So you mentioned your journey took you to Tampa Bay. I have to mention, obviously, a lot of our listeners know, or anyone that follows me on social media, I've been a big Bucs fan for close to 30 years. And I think since I started grad school at San Diego State in 2010, I've just been waiting for an Aztec to make it on the Bucs. And I'm pretty sure you were the first one. So I appreciate you for that.
Honored.
What does it feel like? What was it like to be a Buck this past season? I mean, the season success-wise did not go as well as I think the team wanted, but what was it like to be a Buck?
It was very cool. I mean, the organization itself I think it's a great organization. You can tell everyone there is pro. The biggest thing, it was just a hump we just couldn't get over all year, and it was pretty tough. But but it was amazing to see Tom Brady work, Chris Godwin work, Mike Evans work. All of these guys were at the top echelon of the NFL, and see how they work day in and day out, just, getting themselves ready, how they practice, demanding perfection. It puts you in a spot where it's like, okay, if I want to go out there and see the field and I want to compete these guys and earn their respect, I have to go out there and make plays. And it really has you push yourself, especially during practice. Florida heat is no joke, and that was something I learned right away. And once you're going through 40, 45 plays in a practice, especially, starting out, being on practice squad and stuff, you're out there working, and you have to take every single opportunity out there as a game rep. And so it definitely made every day feel to me like I was playing in a game, because I was trying to make sure that I earned the respect of from the guys around me, and I'm not just there just taking up time, and you get in what you put out, you get what you put into the game, and that's off the field and that's on the field. And so, I definitely think that I was able to learn the offense quickly, which was nice, just because, I've been around so many different offenses now. It's all it is just learning what the terminology is, and everybody runs the same stuff. So by that time, I was like, okay, I can learn this stuff quickly, but I really want to make sure that I set a standard for myself to where I'm actually improving every day. And I think I did. So, I like Tampa a lot. It's a great spot, and I'm excited to go back there this offseason.
You signed a futures contract with them. For someone that may not know, can you give us a quick overview of like why someone in your position would want to sign a futures contract and what benefit that brings you?
I was on practice squad pretty much all season with them. The benefit of it is, you're around coaches that This year we are getting a whole entire new pretty much offensive staff. And I think it'll be a good opportunity for me to compete and try to get onto the field. And, at this point in my career, it's more like, all right, let's go. I love training and getting into shape for football season. I love the fact, all the off season grind that goes into it, just to see where it takes you throughout the year, because you never know what's going to happen. You could be there one day, do everything perfectly, and you could be gone the next. And that's just the way this league is. But if you go out there and you give everything you have off the field, and then you go in there and play, you'll be fine. And I have no regrets for it. And I think, Tampa is definitely the best opportunity moving forward for me right now.
One of the guests we had on the podcast prior to was Alex Johnson, and he mentioned you as one of the people that stood out to him over his time. What do you remember from your relationship with Alex and just your past work with him?
So I used to come back right during like winter break. I would come back a few weeks early, and me and my roommate Trey Lomax, we would go out there to see AJ, and he'd put us through these grueling workouts to get us back into shape. Because guaranteed when I was back at home, I wasn't doing as much as I was supposed to be doing, especially at that time and having a hard season where you're playing like 90% of the snaps or something like that. And so I definitely, I would come and see him, for 2-3 weeks before we get back for winter workouts. So when I'm coming back to Coach Hall, I don't look like a schlum, and, AJ would put you through some stuff, and, definitely his mentality towards training is the same as what we do over at San Diego State. It's mentally tough. You got to work if you're going out there with him. AJ's a great guy. It was a great time training with him.
A couple more San Diego State related questions, man. You got to lead the I Believe chant, UNLV 2020.
Oh yeah.
Yeah. So what was that experience like? How did that get set up? And, what do you remember from that night?
They DM'd me on Instagram or something like that. Well,
Okay.
And I was like, all right, yeah, the team's on a hot streak, and then of course when I do it, they got to lose, and so I don't think I'll ever be invited back. But it's pretty funny. It was a cool experience. It's such a different feeling being in a basketball arena than being on a football field, because everything is just right there on top of you. And, that kind of made my high school hooper dreams come true right there. So that was pretty cool. It was pretty fun leading that. I was just making sure that I didn't screw it up. When you get out there and you get a little shell shock seeing everybody staring at you, you're like, all right, I don't want to look like an idiot. So we got to make sure we get this right.
We weren't going to mention it, but since you did, that was the only loss of the season. I think
Trust
until
me, I know. Yeah. Yeah.
yeah.
I know.
No
I was
reminder
there.
necessary.
Oh man, it was brutal. I was
Yeah.
just like, of course, the one time I come up and do it, it's got to happen then. But it's always fun.
You probably didn't have a chance to make it to Snapdragon for a game, with the NFL schedule. But the spring game is coming up. March 23rd is going to be at Snapdragon. Any possibility that you make it down for a spring camp or a spring practice at all?
I really wish I was going to be able to come down for that, but no, not this off season. I got a few trips planned in March. It's a pretty busy month, but I definitely am looking forward to coming back down and actually seeing Snapdragon and seeing what the new stadium. It looks so cool in all the pictures. I remember when I was living down there before we moved up here, that I would drive down the 15 and see, how much they've taken down of Qualcomm every single day. It's just like, wow, it's all those memories there are just gone, and now it's something brand new. But I'm really happy that our program, has put a lot of money into the football team and everything like that. The locker rooms, the athletic facility is always getting upgraded, practice fields, and I think it's just going to be such a good thing for the school. The whole entire West Expansion campus over there, that's going to be such a great marketing deal, and just I think great for the school itself, just having its own area right there, right around the field. And I think it's going to definitely have more students being able to come to the games, especially if there's, more living situations and stuff for people to get over and easily access to the game. So I think it's going to be really great future for the Aztecs up ahead.
Part of that future potentially could be a move to Power Five. There's a lot of buzz about Pac-12, Big 12. What are your thoughts about that, a move to the Power Five, and what that could mean for the future of San Diego State football?
I think that would be huge. I mean, I definitely think we're one of the teams that deserves it. Every single year we got to back it up though. And, that's the hardest thing about being in sports business is that, you have to be able to win games, and you have to be able to prove yourself week in and week out against these top tier opponents. And, just with how, every team is moving around and stuff like that, I think it would be a huge, huge deal for us. And I definitely think that having us in there in the Pac-12 against these other opponents, I think will definitely showcase a lot more. And it'll probably get a lot of more recruits that I think San Diego State deserves to be able to come in too.
Those are football questions, man. We got some rapid fire, kind of fun, silly questions for you. Ready for those?
All right, let's see what I got here.
All right. So what's your favorite food?
I have to say enchiladas.
And where do your go-to enchiladas?
Casa de Bandini in Carlsbad.
Oh, good call. Good call. See that six
Yeah.
with San Diego County. Love it.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
Favorite movie or TV show?
Oh man. Say favorite movie. I mean, all time it's probably got to be Talladega Nights. Absolutely hilarious. TV show right now, I'm really locked into that Formula One Drive to Survive show, and so I'm really excited for that one to come out.
What is Talladega Nights? What is your quote from that you use in your everyday
Oh,
vernacular?
I'm not embarrassing myself with that one.
Fair enough.
I'm not into that one.
How about your favorite musical artist?
Oh man, Zach Brown Band
Great call.
and Kid Cudi. Yeah, Zach Brown Band and Kid Cudi.
What is your favorite professional athlete before you became one yourself, or even since then, some of your teammates?
Kobe Bryant.
What was it about Kobe Bryant that really?
I just loved the Lakers when I was a kid. And, those were all the winning years for the good old Lake Show. Now my wife is trying to recruit me to be a Kings fan. And, it's a tough decision, especially with how it's going nowadays. But yeah, I mean, I just love the tenacity he played the game with. You just saw that killer instinct on him at all times. And, something as a kid when you dream about playing in professional sports, you want to see how those guys do it. And, Kobe Bryant did it the right way. You saw how much work he put in, and, it just showed with how great of a career and how great of a person he ended up being.
Your wife, she drove you from Kansas City to Green Bay and then packed up all of your stuff. And at least you could do is give her the Kings, bro.
I'm getting assaulted by all of her friends, just trying to recruit me into. They have a whole entire group chat that they're all trying to just recruit me to be a Kings fan now, and it's, I don't know if I can give it up.
No, it's a tough jump when you're not getting ready for football or being bombarded by rabid Kings fans trying to get you to switch your allegiances. What are some other things that you do for fun?
Love to golf, love to play basketball as well, but more or less now it's just taking jump shots and shooting around in the gym a little bit. But definitely basketball and golf for sure.
Man, terrific, great interview, man. Thank you for taking the time to join us, man. Fantastic.
Yeah, it was a lot of fun, guys.
Yeah, have a good night, man. Good luck in the off season, and we'll see you out in the fall.
All right, appreciate it, guys. Thanks for having me.
All right, Paul. That was Aztec for Life, David Wells. What were your main takeaways from our chat with him?
I mean, I thought it was great, a lot of fun. I mean, I think we've had the opportunity to talk to numerous Aztecs, right? So we've now gotten it from both sides because we talked with Christian Chapman back in the day last year about the same drive, and everything that's set up there. But I think the part that I find fascinating about all of this is there's a narrative that runs through there. When we talk with Coach Hogue, we talk with Adam Hall, and they talk about helping young men to be able to improve and to grow and then to take what they have into their adult lives, right? So there's those messages. And then you see, Michael Shawcroft saying, look, if I can work as hard as I've learned to work at San Diego State and apply it to whatever else that I'm doing, I can go and be successful. And obviously David Wells is in the same arena, still practicing football. But tell me that is not exactly the toughness that he was talking about the team needing to have, that he was able to display in all of the stuff that he went about to be able to continue his NFL journey. People don't do what he does. I mean, it's just if you're not working as hard as he works, and the payoff isn't to be elite or to be at the upper echelon or to be fighting for millions upon millions upon millions of dollars, like, people go and find something else to do. And the fact that he not only did that, was injured through COVID, and then worked himself back to where now he could have a legit opportunity to get on the field and compete with the Bucks again. I think it just brings a lot of the things that we constantly talk about full circle, and is, I would argue, what really separates, amateur collegiate sports from the other sports, because it is about that development, and you see the investment that paid off for David Wells so big.
Yeah. I mean, with him, it's the persistence, it's being mentally strong and resilient especially for an undrafted player. You're probably told by your agent, it's going to be an uphill climb. You're going to be bouncing from team to team potentially. Even knowing that, it still has to be hard to be in the moment, getting signed and a week later getting cut. And having that, and having a wife, and having your family and support system, I think is important to overcome that. It kind of reminds me when we were talking to Michael Shawcroft about a month or so ago, and he was talking about overcoming his injuries, at the college level, not professional, obviously, but overcoming injuries and thinking, okay, well, is this it for me? And how he was talking about he wasn't mentally okay last summer, and needed to reach out and get help. And I think it kind of shows that you have these obstacles and you need your support system, but you also need that resiliency to say, this isn't it yet. I have a next step, and I'm still on my journey. And I think that's what stands out for me for his journey is, he's been on 8 teams in 4 years officially. Some of those stints have been as short as a week. The Chiefs was almost 2 years. And so, it's going through that process. Now he's on the Bucks. He's got a futures contract that doesn't guarantee that he's going to be on the roster next year, but it does give him a home where he can go through OTAs. He can learn the playbook. He can meet his new offensive coaching staff, and he can get on that path, but you don't know what that next step is going to be. But his resiliency, I think, has been pretty evident, and I don't doubt that's going to continue.
I agree. A couple other things that stood out to me. I thought it was a great ode to Jeff Horton, and him retiring, and that still being very, very fresh to be able to just say that there was these private conversations where I need to go back and figure out what are my options, what can I do afterwards, all of those kinds of things. And the fact that that is who Jeff Horton is as a man, outside of the any spotlight, out of a, that's who he is, and that's what he did. And so I thought that was pretty special to just get that continued perspective about him, because that's been another one of those recurring themes. But you can see why a person like David Wells is attractive to NFL teams. I don't think it's by accident that he is been picked up so many times. Chemistry, perseverance, the fight, these are not quantifiable things. And the NFL is a very, very quantifiable institute. That's how everything's ran. It's by numbers. And they want to take as much like intuition and chance out of the equation, because then you can have predictable results. You know who to draft, you know what to do, and you can, give yourself an opportunity to win championships. But there's still certain things that are just human nature that they haven't figured it out yet anyway, how you can, quantitatively or qualitatively spell out what it looks like to like overcome a bad call from a ref, or what it looks like to be able to overcome an injury, or how you can exist with your teammates, etc. All that kind of stuff is still an art more than a science. And then you see a person like him and the conversation that he just had, and you want a voice like that in the locker room. You want somebody who clearly appreciates what he has, the opportunity that he's been given, has a great, as you say, support structure that he mentioned a handful of times, except for that Kings thing at the end. That was a little weird. It's really, I think, apparent again why somebody would want that young man. I don't know how old he is. He would want him in the locker room, why he would want that person in the locker room, and why, whatever the next steps are for him. And of course, I hope the NFL thing, keeps going and keeps working out, and more opportunities come his way. He's going to be a sought after commodity in whatever it is that he decides to do, because it's special. There's just no other way about it. You don't run into very many human beings who can just talk about the things that he was talking about, not because he watched a TED Talk or read about it in a book or saw an inspirational speech on TikTok, but because he lived through it when nobody was watching, and it's special. And so it was great to be able to, pull that back. And I thank you, Andre, for, setting the interview up, because otherwise I wouldn't have had the opportunity to understand. You just see the waiver wire, you just see he got picked up by, and a week later he got let go by, and you know what I mean? And so I saw the futures contract, I saw that. Okay, cool, man. Because obviously he has that iconic moment in San Diego State history that everybody knows who he is because of that. But his story was just wildly compelling.
The funny thing about the Kings is, like, if there was ever a year to become a Kings fan, it'd be this year, because I think they're having
that's a good point.
Season.
Yeah,
it's like the Mike Bibby, Chris Webber days, like in the mid 2000s. So like they've got a pretty good young team, and they're in the playoff chase. So if there was ever a year to become a Kings fan, I'm not promoting the Kings, obviously, but he's got something to think about. I thought also, going back to the I believe,
yeah,
I believe chance. I saw the post on social media, right, of the video of him doing it, but it didn't mention what game it was, who they played, right? So I took the date of the post and I went to the schedule and I looked up the date to see who they played. It happened to be UNLV when they were 26-0.
It was kind of you. It was kind of you to not bring that up. Yeah,
I was like, I'm not going to bring that up, but then he brought it up. But yeah, that was the game they lost to UNLV when they were 26-0, I believe.
Well, I mean, they say about sports. They say the thing about sports is sports always even themselves out. So one person cannot have one of the greatest touchdowns, and then how do you even that out? You leave the I believe chant when they're 26-0 and they lose.
It's time to bring him back. The show, if you're listening, it's time to bring him back and have him rectify that. And if there's another loss, then okay, maybe you cut your losses at 2. But I think he deserves that second game, that second shot to redeem himself for sure.
Oh, without question, man. That was a great interview, and I think getting to catch up with these former Aztecs and to see what they do after they graduate, whether it's somebody in the NFL like David Wells or anybody else that we could be able to find and have had the opportunity to speak to. and it's just, again, it's great to see the legacy of what they do and how it lives on past just you're thinking about them every week because they're going to go and play for the Aztecs.
Yeah, that's a great point. Spring practice is right around the corner. Starts on Monday, February the 20th. Paul and I will be, attending some practices, getting some articles out on what we think we're going to see and what we do see. So stay tuned for those. The spring game is going to be on Thursday, March the 23rd. Brady Hoke confirmed at the press conference on Monday that it will be at Snapdragon Stadium. So that was something we were unsure of. Last year Snapdragon wasn't ready and the game was held at the practice facility. But it will be at Snapdragon. No, I haven't seen any details in terms of, getting tickets or admission or things like that. I'm sure San Diego State will put something out, but it will be fun to be out there for a spring game.
Yeah, it's been that's been one of the storylines of Snapdragon, right? And we've been wondering how are they going to roll out usage of it for that. And the next thing is the passing camps, man. I wonder if some of the passing camps and things like that will also be played there. A lot of things going on at Snapdragon. I think a couple days later, the Wave are opening up their season.
Yeah.
And so they're the Cholos, they're going to play a soccer match there part of their season.
It's
Club America.
It's an exhibition match against Club America.
Okay. It wasn't part of that. Okay. And
I don't think it's part of their regular season schedule, no.
Gotcha. And I've already had multiple people come to me. I'm going to that game. So a lot of excitement around it, trying to build what, they promised, which was all kinds of games be used, 365 days out of the year. So spring camp, unbelievable that it's around the corner. Crazy that it's there, but I'm looking forward to covering it and getting to see the development of the Aztecs that we know and a lot of the Aztecs that we don't know and their place on the team.
Absolutely. That's going to do it for us, guys. Thank you for listening as always. Make sure to hit the subscribe button and follow us on all your favorite podcast platforms, and we will talk to you guys next time. You are listening to the SDSU Football Podcast, presented by the East Village Times with your hosts Andre Hagverdian and Paul Garrison.